Okay, we are live. And so, welcome to the very first episode of Brothers Duo. And today, of course, I am Brian. I'm the HighPopProfessor, and I have with me here today my brother, Iconic Al.
Thanks for having me, Brian. This is a great idea to do some unstructured hobby talk most
Yeah,
weeks.
yeah. I just wanted to have an opportunity to catch up with you, but also just to discuss things in the hobby, and various topics that might be coming up, either current news or current pickups or what's going on, keeping a pulse on the hobby. And so yeah, today I wanted to just talk about collecting focus. This is a really important part of any collector's journey, and being that as a collector we do have journeys that take twists and turns. Sometimes the focus of our collection changes, and I want to talk about how important that is to maintain to maintain the vision and to keep, to stay on the straight and narrow, to follow a dedicated path, um, and maybe what some of the dangers are. There's just so many cool things out there
Yeah.
that if you don't have a focus, I mean, I don't have enough funds to be able to acquire just anything that pops up that's so cool looking, because any given day there's amazing things out there, and if you don't have that focus and discipline to stick to any kind of a plan, I don't know. I think I'd be in danger of just becoming a hoarder personally.
Yeah. Which, you hear that topic and that ethos out there in the hobby, buy what you like. Well, that's great. But yeah, I like I like a lot of things. So for me, it's more like, what do you truly love? And what is your collecting goal? What is the end goal for your collection? Because I think, what are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to do at the end of the day with your collection? And I think that's what I try to always have in the back of my mind when I'm hunting, when I'm searching for things, when I'm prioritizing what I'm going to spend my money on in the hobby. It has to fit into that vision somewhere, like, of the thing that I'm trying to accomplish. What am I trying to do here? And if that thing or that item or that autograph or that card doesn't fit in to that vision for what I want my collection to ultimately be, then I move on. Basically, even if it's something that I do like, like this flare hot glove didn't really fit into my vision, but once in a while, for $26, you add a card like that because it's nostalgic. That's also part of the hobby. So
Mhm.
I don't follow my own rule 100% of the time, and I don't think any collector can be 100% laser focused. But
Yeah, Pete Rose mentioned in his video to you, records are meant to be broken, and
yeah,
rules too are meant to be bent sometimes and
right.
occasionally broken. Yeah, I too am guilty of this. The other day, I showed this card. The other day, I picked this up the other day. This is a Master Craftsman, really cool, 90s insert, and this is one of those that, it had the Craftsman was numbered to 3500. This is the Master Craftsman, so it's numbered to 100, and this is the executive proof. It has
Yes,
the exit, and it's not that I'm even collecting executive proofs necessarily. I didn't have one. I kind of wanted to have one for the collection, but it doesn't really fit. It's not part of my refractor runs. It's not part of anything else in particular, but it's just a really cool card.
yeah.
And, I wanted to have it.
And
So,
when are you going to see one again?
well, right. Yeah. And you see the ones that sell. Yeah, they sell for quite a bit. And I got it at auction for a pretty reasonable price. And I'd pay it again.
Yeah.
But it doesn't actually fit. And so that's sort of like, so I applaud your focus that you maintain your collection, and I have to think that your focus probably is one of the more unique ones I've ever come across, because you're one of those truly rare collectors that spans the entire gamut from pre-war through vintage through modern to ultra modern, because your list of 100 guys, it's timeless. It's everywhere.
I try not to discriminate. I really try not to discriminate based on era. I mean, and I don't think it's that out of left field. I really don't think it's that crazy to think, all right, well, if you're interested as a collector in Cal Ripken, then you better be interested in Hannes Wagner. If you're interested in, let's say, Joe Morgan, then you better be interested in Eddie Collins.
Yeah.
It's like,
Or Hornsby.
yeah, right. Just because you didn't see them play, well, I didn't really see Joe Morgan play either, but like, I collect based on merit, essentially greatness, iconic status, how much they matter to the game, and how much they matter to history. What have they been able to accomplish in the game and in pop culture and in their lives, and in Jackie Robinson's case for humanity. So it's more just like collecting based on importance, on status, on greatness. So yeah, I don't think it's anything crazy what I'm doing, but yeah, you're right. I guess I don't see many people doing it.
Right. That's sort of why I'm commenting on it, because your collection's incredible. I just have to say.
Well, so
and just watching, over the last 2.5 years, and watching you showcase everything you've got from Shohei Ohtani to Eddie Murray to Frank Thomas to
right.
Ken Griffey Jr. to Honus Wagner. I mean,
these are all people that matter to me. All
Mickey
players
Mantle.
that matter to me, subjects that
Right.
matter to me. And there is a great collector, Marshall Fogel. Are you
Oh,
familiar?
yeah, with the Mantle 10, of course, yeah.
And I take some inspiration from him, and I think he kind of collects that way, in a way, or the way he describes it is collect horizontally, not vertically.
Yes, I was about to say the breadth of what you have, not necessarily the depth. It's not like
Right.
you've got 500 Barry Bonds cards in your collection, but you have a very wide breadth, but just not the huge depth for each
Exactly. And so the way I look at it is what Marshall says is define your subjects. Define the subjects you're going to collect. That's maybe the most important thing as you can do as a collector, is define your subjects. So hence my top 100. That defines my subjects, and then collect horizontally across those subjects without going too far vertically. And so that's the way that I think as well. And that takes some inspiration from Marshall, because he's been able to acquire cream of the crop items across the horizontal of his subject list. And so
I do find this a little bit funny and a little bit fascinating. So our father is a Barry Bonds super collector,
right.
and he has kind of the exact opposite approach, and does
Exactly.
a complete core sample through every single one of Barry Bonds cards ever made.
It's another way to collect. Yeah,
it is. It's a vertical way, not a horizontal way.
right.
And so having grown up with that sort of influence, I think there was a long time a temptation. I'm a Greg Maddux guy, but I've decided since getting back in, I don't really want excessive quantity. I'm not looking to obtain a number, this many thousands of different cards. That doesn't,
you don't want to be a Maddux completist, in other words.
No, and I would not want to do that. That sounds awful. That sounds terrible. I mean, 97 Flair Showcase to me ruined that for everybody with the 1-of-1 masterpiece cards.
Or Top Tech, maybe.
Top Tech. Oh God. Oh, don't even. Yeah, I mean, and to a lesser extent, what was it? Pinnacle Plus had the very first what was it? Printing plates, the 1-of-1.
Right.
The cyan, magenta, whatever. So that was a little bit crazy too. So yeah, I decided I didn't want to do that, but it's exactly right that without some kind of a defined, like, pre-written down, it's kind of like the SMART goals. You have to write them down, and they have to be attainable and measurable and specific and all that kind of good stuff. Without having a limit, set boundaries, we find ourselves, at least I find myself, wanting to stray from the path.
Right, down other verticals.
Right, exactly.
And focused and horizontal across,
Yeah, so that's a tough thing. Have there been times when you found yourself wanting to? So I recall having watched every single one of your 100 videos. I found it amusing, but I didn't doubt you for a minute when you got to a guy like Tony Gwynn, and you had like 8 items for him, which is surprisingly deep for you.
Yeah.
At what point, do you get to the point where you're like, well, maybe we should pare that down to 6, and then have free up some more hobby funds to go for some of the bigger pieces where you want to upgrade, or you want to obtain a rare auto? What is there like a dedicated like cutoff? I know he's kind of an exception because he's just a really cool, amazing player.
Yeah, when I say I don't discriminate, I do, because we collected in the era when we grew up. It was Bonds, it was Ripken, it was Gwynn, it was Griffey, Maddux. It was, those players were the superstars of when we were kids. And so I think we all, like, if someone grew up in the 60s, they're going to probably have more Mantle. They're probably going to have,
Ernie Banks.
Yeah, they're going to
We'll
have
those
Willie
guys.
Mays. Like, yeah, they're
Yeah,
going to have those players and have a special, deeper love for them, especially if they were ripping 63 tops packs when they were a kid. Absolutely, they're going to have a little more love for 1963 and 64 if they were 12 years old.
Pete
In
Rose.
19,
Yeah,
yeah, like I was 12 years old when this card came out.
there
You
you go.
know, 1994 Flair.
Yep.
And so I have a special love, as you do, for that era because we were opening Flair packs. We
We
were
were. We
pulling
both
those cards. Yeah. And so, yeah, I in a way I do discriminate because I have more representation in my collection from that innovation era, from
Yes.
that 91 through about 99, because that's when I was a teenager. That's when I was in middle school, high school, picking up cards and really building out my collection. And I think it was a really fun era of cards that I think, continues to grow. I think the demand for those low pop inserts, the numbered stuff, the refractors, all those great, designed inserts are I think, yeah, poised. Yes, poised for growth in the future. I think they changed the game. Literally, those elite cards. Those.
The very first numbered
Yep.
elite insert.
Yep.
Here's the
And
91.
that's a project that I've been working on in the past year. Has been trying to pick up what I called my 90s refractor project. So that's a big video that I'm working on right now.
Nice.
It's probably going to be like a half-hour long video, basically showing off what I've been working on for the past year. As I've been presenting countdown videos, in the background, I've been picking up refractors of nostalgic players and players that do also fit into my top 100. But
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, do I have a number where if I have 8 Tony Gwynn cards, that's it? No, not necessarily. But would I at times pare down on a player if it got a little bit too weighty? Say if I had, if I have like 5 Griffey autographs, do I really need 5 Griffey autos? Probably not. Would I move one along at some point? Maybe my least favorite one? Sure. If I need to raise some hobby funds for to put toward a Walter Johnson autograph? Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Although you could say, is there really ever such thing as too many Griffey autographs? I mean, really?
Yeah, not really, no.
I mean, it's the most beautiful signature in the game. Well, okay, maybe Mariano has got him.
Yeah.
That's a tough call. That's a tough call.
Yeah, it's one of the most beautiful, artful signatures in the game, I think.
Yeah. It's timeless. Yeah, so I will say that in my so being the high pop professor, I do discriminate as well, and I have a bit of a narrower focus for my I'm mostly sticking to 80s rookies, 90s inserts. It's kind of my thing. And when I got in, yeah, I wanted to mostly focus on that nostalgic era, for me, for us. And so yeah, I wanted to basically take every star player. And my first focus in getting back in was I really wanted to get one really nice rookie card for every star player and one really nice autograph, like certified autograph or PSA slab or Beckett slabbed auto. And yeah, that's sort of where I started. And so I think one nice thing about that is if you have a breadth that is very wide like that, and when you just want a nice autograph, you're not so limited to just picking out, well, I'm just hunting the SP chirographies. Right. Which are beautiful autos. And I ended up getting one of those, for like, Roger Clemens. But also what's cool about that is that if you have sort of if you're casting a wide net, you can sort of pick up really good deals when they come by. You're open. And I think one of the dangers of having a focus that's too narrow, if you're hunting only specific cards and targeting just that set, just that insert, just that card only, then you're kind of blind to really good deals that might pop up otherwise. So for example, I was looking for, Roger Clemens was one of those guys, and I had a nice rookie already, and I was looking for an auto, and I already had the chirography, and I ended up picking up this one.
Nice.
And here's me too. Clear highlights. This is one of those certified, pack pulled autos that were there. It's clear embossed stamp on there, and it was like $16 on auction.
Yeah, Clemens autographs are insanely cheap. I don't really understand it.
I couldn't say no to that. I just no. I'm picking that up, And so I ended up moving along the chirography, at which I got a big premium for it. I actually sold it for more than I bought it for.
Mhm.
And then it was funny because some of the ones I was picking up, I realized were these Diamond Kings cards, which are just beautiful pieces of artwork anyway. And so I sort of shifted my focus of my collection more to these Diamond King autographs, which, and really concentrating on those Dick Perez years from 82 to 96. And I thought that was really cool because even if I'm not going to be obtaining like a Carl Yastrzemski rookie card, because that's not the 1980 to like 2000 range of stuff, I can still sort of dip my toe into the vintage era by picking up guys like Joe Morgan, picking up guys like Yastrzemski, and getting these beautiful like autographed Diamond Kings cards that allows me to still sort of, pick up some of these guys that are from the 70s and late 60s still.
Yeah, and if you wanted to expand out to the pre-war greats, for example, you could do something like what Jake Legends Never Die does, who gets the Perez Steel postcards.
Yeah.
And it does kind of a thing where he puts the cut, like the Eddie Collins cut, the Hank Greenberg cut, or whatever it is,
with the Perez Steel artwork.
Perez Steel artwork, and
beautiful.
So that's a vertical you could explore if you wanted to dip your toe into that pre-war market. But I like the focus there of the Diamond King autos.
Yeah. I've had a lot of fun doing that. So I started to realize that so many of the players had these beautiful artwork. I mean, they're already works of art. They're like museum pieces. It's beautiful. And so now I'm in a weird place where it's like, well then I picked up this Clemens. And this is these 92, 93 Diamond Kings are just so gorgeous.
Those are the best. Yeah.
Those are just prime, man. I was like 7, 8 years old, and those were inserts that weren't so difficult to pull. They were maybe like 1 in 6 packs or something. But when you got one and they're borderless and they're shiny and it's got the gold foil on there and it's beautiful. You pull those things out.
That's so much nicer than looking at a 1992 Donruss base card.
Oh my gosh! I mean, that thing jumps out of the. I mean, compared to what else 92 Donruss looks like. It's like, man, that thing. It's like, you just hit something big, and so it gave you that feel, and so now I'm wondering, well, do I move along from that other one, the Career Highlights auto, right? Do I just keep it because it's nice?
It's your call. I mean, that's the thing. You define if that Fleer Highlights, does that still fit into your collecting vision? Does that still fit into your, what you want your collection to be, your end game, your vision? And if it doesn't, move it along, get your $20 and put the funds towards something else.
Right. Yeah. And something else that's interesting. So I've with my collecting, obviously I've been working on some Greg Maddux refractors runs, from the 90s. And then I found that it's interesting. I've run into a couple interesting observations that I see happening with other people's collections too. So at the beginning, if you're just trying to pick up 90s refractors of a given player, doesn't matter who, there's a bunch of them out there. And so at the beginning, it's sort of like low-hanging fruit. You can sort of take your pick, and every card that you encounter is new to you, and so you can kind of just snipe here and there, take your pick and choose what you like. But then as you're starting to sort of get more and more of them, and there's fewer available left that you actually need to complete your runs, well, then the pickups become fewer and further between, and usually they get pricier too.
Right. This is what Theo was running into also.
That's what I'm saying. Clemente collector. Yeah. He has a very defined, like, hey, I'm going for the Roberto Clemente run. We're doing this. We're starting with the tops and we're going there. And so, once that run is complete, now he's like, okay, well, now we got to get for some of the more rare, obscure food issues. We got to get some of the other issues. We got to get the 3D. We got to get the other ones that are tougher to find. They're more expensive to pick up. And so you're not picking up, 5 or 6 cards a month anymore. Now you're only getting one card, maybe one card every other month, because you got to save up for them now, and you've got to or move along and trade in and say, okay, well, I don't need this card anymore. And so now he's picking up the Stan Musial run.
Yeah,
right. And so it's about that evolution and about where do we go from here. And it is exciting to start a new project because, again, when you start a new project, you get that low hanging fruit again, and well, now you can pick up this Musial and that Musial because they're all new to you. Right. Yep. And so I think it's interesting. It's a big decision though to make to consciously turn your focus or adjust it to travel in a new direction. And it's one of those things that should be taken with a great level of thought and
Yeah.
intentionality, I
Is
think.
this really something that you want? Like this is, it's worth taking away from your other focus. Like, or if you had a previous focus, are you better off staying the course, saving up, getting those big pieces you might need for your main goal,
Mhm.
or are you just shifting focus because you need to buy more? Like you need more pickups, you know?
Yeah, it's so funny how much of the hobby is like is has a gambling sort of aspect to it with breakers, and even with grading has sort of a gambling component. What are the odds of me, pulling a 10 on this, and what's my expected value, and can we, can we get a return out of this that's going to make it worthwhile? And yeah, it's kind of amazing to consider. I'm at a point with a lot of my Maddox refractor runs where many of them are only a couple cards away from being complete, and so I've slowed down on the number of pickups that I'm making, but a lot of the ones I'm getting are some of the heavier hitters now,
Right.
and some of them are just so tough to find that I'm effectively writing them off as being sort of, they're the white whale, they're the sort of
Mm-hmm.
grail cards. I've got, so one of those cards that I'm probably just not going to get because I probably am just not going to see the card, but it's one of these, like, it's one of these Bowman Chrome refractors,
Mm-hmm.
and this is one from 99 Bowman Chrome. There's a version where, like the other ones that have the international refractor that this year's number to 100, but then there's one that has the facsimile auto is gold.
Yeah, I remember those.
Number 25.
Right.
And like a card from the 90s, number 25, all of those are secured away in long-term collections. There's no way that thing's going to pop up. And if it does, it's going to be a four-figure card,
Yep.
likely. If it's probably graded, so it's probably like a 9 or,
Yeah, that'll be on a PMG essential credential plane.
Yeah,
Ultra.
it won't have, I don't think, the kind of overall general demand that your PMG essential credential Star Rubies is going to have, but it's just a tier under. It's not going to be quite your Crusade Red level of insanity when it comes to bidding and pricing. So probably won't be in the $4,000 or $5,000 range like those would be. But yeah, it'll be over 1,000, I bet.
Oh
So
yeah.
if it comes up, when it comes up,
Yep.
I don't know. I don't
Yep.
know. And so I'm in a tough spot. The one I'm really looking for now, of course, is the 97 finest gold embossed refractor.
Oh.
That's the one. That's the one I'm really looking out for. And
And it's
so that,
probably somewhat attainable still. That's the cool thing about, I think, the finest refractors and the Bowman's best refractors and the
right.
like
Yeah.
that.
I'm
I
looking.
think they're still like they still really haven't moved as much as the big 90s inserts have.
Right. And so this card with the deckled edge and the gold embossed is what I'm
Yep.
looking for. No one, they weren't even numbered. I don't even know how many of them were made. People estimate between 30 and 50.
Right. But they're
There's no way of knowing.
easily as rare as any essential credential or PMG or Circle Rave. I mean,
Maybe
yeah,
more. I don't
yeah,
know. There
really
was
get
one.
pretty cheap.
Yeah, there was one that sold about 2 years ago on eBay, and of course those ones actually hulk out pretty badly. The die cut embossed
Hmm.
refractors, the gold ones. Um, but there was one that was listed for $900, and they sold it at a best offer. And I don't know what the offer was, but and maybe it was 500, maybe it was 850. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but since then I haven't even seen one pop up. So.
Yep, you might not for a while.
And yeah, that's exactly right. And so part of me needs to, keep some of these hobby dollars reserved
Yeah,
for when one of them does. I've got to be ready to pounce on that thing. And some of them are so rare that when they pop up, you just sometimes even have to overspend a little bit if you really do want to acquire it, because there are others with the same mentality. And yeah, FOMO is a thing, and you don't want to overpay, but if you want it, sometimes you just have to bomb it with the big,
yeah. It's a
big.
similar mentality that you hear Dave Blue Jacket 66 that he has with pre-war auctions, and there's
Right.
just a lot of examples out there. And when they come up in an REA or an eBay auction, you just have to be ready, and you have to have funds reserved and saved because it's one you're not going to see very often if that's something that you want.
These are pops that are either, single digits or low double digits have ever been graded, and they're just not out there. And the ones that are out there are locked away in collections and long, heavy collect, and they're not getting rid of them. They're not looking to move them. So
Right.
you just won't see them. They're
Yeah,
ghosts.
it's not a pool that I swim in generally with those
No.
higher
Right.
ends.
Hmm.
But yeah, I get the mentality of
Hmm.
you got to act when you see it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. So you mentioned that you've got your 100. You've got, I'm sure, and I'm sure you're sort of in this more mature, developed. I think of it as like, you have a grassland where you have, a grassy plain, and over time, small, seedlings and saplings will start to sprout, and then over time they
Mhm.
grows 50 years into a big, forest, a mature forest. And I
Yes.
think my collection is, and your collection has now, has become this mature forest, and so aside from, I'm looking forward to seeing what your refractor project is going to look like. And so that just warms my heart to hear you going after these 90s refractors, because I'm right there with you.
Yeah, it hits all this. It hits all the spots for me. I think when I look at cards, it's like, well, that hits nostalgia for me because the '90s refractors are nostalgic designs for me, especially Bowman's Best and Finest. So that's what I focused on.
Hmm.
So it's nostalgia, but it's also top 100 players,
Hmm.
mostly top 60 players is what
Hmm.
I kind of made sure that they were all, worthy subjects that were in that top 60-ish of my
Yeah.
countdown. And I believe at the end of the day, they will also gain value or at least hold value because of how low population they are. And they are all in PSA 9, basically. They're all in high grade, which
Yeah,
are, like PSA grades those things hard. I mean, it's very
they do.
hard to get a 9 on a '90s refractor. It's very hard.
Yeah,
And so,
I think I'm going to make a video at some point, sort of a guide to grading 90s refractors.
mhm,
I've submitted a good number of mine, and I'm in the middle of runs for, I just made a video about my Topps Chrome base run, but I'm also putting together Bowman's Best, Bowman Chrome, Topps Finest.
mhm.
I'm sort of working through all of those, and a good number of them, the pops are so low, I just submit them myself, because
Yeah.
you can't find, eights and nines. They just don't pop up. And
Yep.
so if you can even find a really great looking ungraded one, which a lot of times you can't, because sometimes they're, but yeah, I'm going to make a video, I think, about what some of the issues specific to those types of cards are, and why PSA is grading them harsher, what they're looking at, what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Uh, so I
And I
might,
know Nat Turner, the owner of PSA, really does collect a lot of '90s stuff.
yeah,
And because he isn't that old of a guy, I think he's in his
right.
40s.
Well, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so
Well,
he has a lot of,
he bought our dad's Crusade Red Bonds.
oh, did he?
Yeah,
Wow.
he was the guy.
Oh,
Well, yeah, because he had two of them. He had two
mhm.
Crusade 98 Donruss Crusade Red Bonds cards, and one of them measured short. So
Uh,
we think it had been trimmed, and he listed that, and I think that was the one that Nat Turner bought.
hmm, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if it came top down or what, or they say there's no pop control, but I think there are definitely more stringent standards for grading '90s inserts
Hmm.
than there used to be. Uh, and
Well,
that will only keep these populations down of the high grade '90s stuff. So
mhm.
that's why another reason why nostalgia, top tier players, low pops. I just think they're going to be cards that hold up
Mhm.
because they have everything going for them. They're beautiful to look at. They hit nostalgia for a lot of people our age,
Yep.
um, and I think the populations will keep those, the prices of those competitive and up, over time.
Yeah, I think you're right. Um, yeah, so it's interesting. So most of the ones I get, I try to get around an 8 or a 9, somewhere in that
Yeah.
range. I have a handful of 10s, and there are ones that I submit myself usually, because that's what. But also a handful of 7s. Not many, just a couple, one or two here and there.
Yeah.
Um, but I try to hit the 8 or 9 zone. Um, and I heard you mention about nines, and I think that might go to, and this might be a future topic. Sort of, where are we on the collector versus investor, or flipper, or
Spectrum. Yeah.
on the spectrum, right? And so I don't think there's one right or wrong way to do it.
No.
People have their own
However
preference.
anyone wants to hobby, it's how they hobby. That's
Yeah,
it's everyone's own choice how they, or where they are on every one of those sliding scales. Because I think
yeah,
every everyone is in a different place on each of those sliding scales. You know, I'm probably a very minimal flipper, but I do buy and sell. I wouldn't consider myself a major flipper, but sure, I'll move things along when I need to, or buy strategically and sell at times, but not very often.
Yeah.
I'm definitely a collector because I love these things. You know, I have nostalgia about them. I love them, and I love the subjects. I love baseball. I love the history of the game, and I want these objects to connect me to that. So truly, I am a collector. And then I do want to build value. I want to build a store of value with what I'm collecting. So I'm a collector within it, a mentality of what I want to build value with my collection. So, and I do care about what my collection's worth, because
I don't think you can't. I mean,
yeah, I'm dedicating a good portion of my funds to it, you know, over a long period of time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm on the scale somewhere on all those bars. Where would you put yourself?
Ooh, well, that's a good question. I think compared to you, I think the fact that I'm okay with more PSA 8s probably means I'm just a little bit less of an investor minded, and probably just more on the collector's end of things. But again, I also still care about long-term value. Same thing. I mean, I'd like this to be, I'd like to be able to have, you know, my family getting something out of it at the end of the day, you know,
Right.
when all said and done. I'd like us to not all be for nothing. Now, that being said, you know, I still think that it's fun, you know, having some Sean Casey cards that,
Absolutely.
long-term, okay, they're not really going to be, you know, they're not exactly Babe Ruth cards here.
Right.
But
I bought a
there's
Jason Kendall card last month. I mean, Jason Kendall. I mean,
there you go.
like, so a Jason Kendall signed game jersey for $10, and I love it. It's just like makes me happy when I look at it, because it's Jason Kendall and it's an autograph.
Yeah, there you go. Heck, I texted you today. I opened a pack of 90 score football today, and I pulled this Bo Jackson card. How cool
amazing.
is that?
Yeah,
lightning in the background. That's so awesome.
Yeah, that card is amazing.
It's amazing. And so yeah, it's like a 25-cent card, but that's great. I'm gonna put it in my Bo Jackson page, my binder page, and that's where it's gonna live.
But when we're talking about spending real money,
right.
That's when the conversation shifts a little bit more to something that you believe will be a good store of value at the very least. Call it an investment, call it whatever you want. But I think at the end of the day, we want these things to be stores of value.
So
at least hold up.
I have to ask then, you know, in my mind, one of the dangers of those who do collect ultra modern, with players still active and still playing, and there's so much volatility in what a good season or a good month or a bad season or a career-ending injury could potentially do, or a scandal, a betting scandal, you know, whatever, or a Wander Franco incident, whatever. There's so much inherent risk added with active players, and I get it too, because it's more exciting to collect active. You know, you can actually watch them do their thing every day. You can. It's so much easier to build the hype and get excitement about a guy, Wembanyama, or whoever else, you know, who's currently playing. But there's so much of a larger risk of downside.
Absolutely.
That if you are a risk averse type person, if you're more conservative natured with your investment and with the hobby dollars you want to spend, I can't help but think so many of these really big ticket, really high priced item, you know, they're of current players, it's just so risky.
It's like building your house on an unstable ground. Basically, that's the way I look at it. If you're not pouring a foundation first before you build a house, then you're at risk of that house not being there at the end of the day. So I think
on the flip side, I think the counter argument is that a lot of the guys who are into the ultra modern exclusively and really like that, I think they would say though that a guy like Tony Gwynn, who we mentioned before, doesn't have the crazy upside potential.
That's true too.
I think there you have more of the flipper mentality, and because people are looking to get into something before the season or after the football draft or whatever, and they're trying to sort of ride the high and sort of time the market on these guys because the market is volatile, and that's the game they're playing. They're playing a little bit of a different game. I think you probably don't have as many true collectors in there. There are collectors for sure,
or investors for that matter. They're just looking to buy this card, hold it for a period of time, and then sell it to somebody for more.
Sure.
You know,
a slower flip. Yeah, at the end of the season or next season or after this guy wins MVP or whatever. and it's a different game. It's a different
Yeah,
game they're
and
playing.
that's a way to hobby. I mean, that's
It is
fine.
not
It's
my way, but it is a way.
not my way either. But hey, if people want to do it and they're having fun and they're whatever doing what they do, that's fine. But there's inherently more risk in it for sure.
All right. So I think with one last question here, I'd like to just ask if you've given any thought. So beyond your refractor project, and I know you're still filling in gaps. You're still filling in some of these massive, white whale pieces in your collection. A couple big name autographs. Now you're looking to try to acquire at the National this year and probably next year too. Once that happens, and once you have gotten your collection of your top 100 in a place where you feel like you've gotten it just about the way you want, what direction or what focus do you think, or have you given any thought to what might be the next thing, for you and for your collection?
The top 100 really keeps me pretty busy. It really does, because there's always new sets I'm coming across. There's always upgrade opportunities. There's guys that I'm light on that I'd like to add on to what I have. Like I only have one Rod Carew card, for example, and I'm going to need like one more Rod Carew piece, because I need more than just one. It's a 69 tops autographed Rod Carew card, and I love it. But I'm going to need some other Rod Carew piece at some point, and now I'm going to give a lot of thought and really wait. I might make that a Venezuelan or something. Like I don't own any Venezuelan cards. They're very low pop. They're very hard to come by. They end up being kind of expensive.
Right.
So I might seek out like a 68 tops Rod Carew with the rookie cup on it. In very low grade, because basically a lot of these were pasted into albums and things like that in Venezuela. And so it's a very obscure ad, but it would be fun to search down, hunt out, and try to find like a Venezuelan Rod Carew card just to add, because it's a little bit more special than just a base tops card of some kind. And I think his rookie card it's overpriced. It's a high number, so it's not a rookie card that I like the look of. It's a multiplayer rookie card.
Yeah.
And so I would much rather have something maybe a little bit more special and obscure.
Yeah.
So it's just an example. Like that'll take me a while, to find that Rod Carew card that is going to be my forever Carew.
Do you have any Venezuelan cards currently?
I don't, and that would be another cool thing to add, because I'm a bit of a type collector too. I like to have an example of all the sets that I really love and appreciate in my collection of these various top 100 players.
Right.
So I'm layering in this type collecting on top of or underneath what I'm trying to do. So I'm not just going to pick up like a bunch of 1960 topses. No, I have like one 1960 tops that I love. It's Clemente. And I guess I have the Mazeroski too. So I have two 1960 topses, Clemente and Mazeroski, of the year the Pirates.
Well, they won the World Series, right? So that's a really cool year to have. Sort of like your
yeah.
The
so
Ruth you showed with the 1923, like that was a big year for him and for Yankee Stadium, and so there's some significance baked in there. So that makes sense too.
But I don't want to be too weighty on any specific set. I want a little bit of this set, a little bit of that set, a little bit of that set, and maybe one of each or two of a given set, something like that. But I think the top 100 thing will keep me busy for a long time, because there are some big time autographs I still need to get. Like I'm at some point going to need a Ruth. I'm going to need a Gehrig, and those are going to be. I'm not sure when I'll be able to ever get those, just because of how much they're going to cost. But there's Walter Johnson, and there's Cy Young, and then there's a couple big ones. That'll take me some time to do that, and also some of the pre-war guys like Kid Nichols. I don't have any item for Kid Nichols yet, an autograph or a card, and that'll be from the 1800s whenever I get one of those. Like I don't have any cards from the 1800s yet. I'm going to need a Cap Anson card. So these will take me some time to amass these and to upgrade various parts of my top 100 where I'm light on, like I said, like with Rod Carew. And I just recently added my first Whitey Ford card. I didn't have a Whitey Ford. And so I'm going to make a video on that probably in the next month or so, presenting the Whitey Ford card that I chose for my collection. I showed off a signed ball on my Whitey Ford video and a ticket from the 1960 World Series, because it related to Whitey Ford. He had a really good series.
He was there,
even though the Yankees lost that series. But I didn't have a Whitey Ford card to show on that episode. So that's just an example of, and I gave a lot of thought to it. I was like, kind of thought about it for a couple of years. And I've been thinking about what Whitey Ford card is the one that I really want. And so I finally finally picked it up.
I
And
like that you mentioned like upgrading too. And so it's like you've got your collection as this beautiful bonsai tree, and you're very carefully snipping and pruning here and
yes,
there to
that's a good way to do it.
make it the shapeliest, the nicest presenting bonsai tree that you can ever have.
Yeah.
And that's your collection.
And it's
And
very therapeutic, going through and saying, am I happy with this? Is this the one that I like? And usually, in pretty much all cases, what I have is what I want. That is the thing. And like my Babe Ruth strip card is my Babe Ruth card, and that will always be my Babe Ruth.
I love that card. Of all the Babe Ruth cards I've seen, that image, that beautiful red, bright, vivid red background with that fantastic cartoony like illustration. He almost looks like a cross between. He looks like the LB's Big Boy, a little bit. With his hair, and his face, and just his smile looks reminiscent of that. But it's just so classic from
It's
from
such a
the
lovable
early
card.
20s.
I love it. Yeah.
It's a glorious piece. So yeah, congratulations on that. And
Thank you, sir.
okay, but yeah, I mean, thinking about it with 100 different subjects and potential additions or upgrades to any one of those, I can imagine that would take you a long time.
Yeah. So I think I'm still like that idea. I'm not going to expand outside the top 100, which, by the way, the top 100 is also changing. There will be players that are coming into the top 100, players that will be leaving the top 100 as new players are added. One has to go. So that's another way for me to engage with the sport too, and keeps me engaged in watching your Manny Machados and your Bryce Harpers and your Juan Sotos. These are all guys that I anticipate will possibly crack the list at some point.
Right.
And then I'll have to decide. All right. Well, am I gonna sell my Duke Snyders?
Tom Glavine getting the boot.
Right. So that's something that will keep me engaged, and I view it as a lifelong, morphing, evolving project or process.
Cool.
So yeah, I don't think that mission will change. But then I might do something similar to what Dad's doing now, paring down his bonds collection, methodically selling off, and maybe when I'm retirement age, I'll have fun doing that. Paring down and letting go of these things that I've had for most of my life.
That's cool.
Yeah, so maybe at 65, 66, 67, 70 years old, that's when I'll start the process of moving my collection along to the next holder of the torch.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it'll be a fun project in my retirement, and also maybe a source of retirement income.
There you go.
if I've done well with what I've built.
Oh, I don't think you have to worry about that. I think your collection speaks for itself. What you've managed to obtain, and the way that you've been pruning your bonsai accordingly. I don't think you're gonna have any trouble there.
What do you view as your end game as a collector? What or have you thought about it, like the ultimate end game of your collection? Where do you see that going? Do you think that one of the kids will take the torch? Do you think that they're going to take that, or do you think you're going to? What do you think your end game is?
I mean, part of the issue is like, so you and I, we kind of started early. I mean, we were collecting in the 80s. I remember, my first card, I remember, sliding into a binder page it was a 90 tops Don Mattingly. It was a 50-cent card, and that was a big deal.
Yeah, for me it was 89 tops.
Yeah.
In fact. Yeah. 89 tops, baby.
89 tops. Oh boy. Yeah, that's the one. That's exactly right. Or here you go. Here's 89 tops.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Traded, but that
was the first packs that I remember opening were 89 tops. I remember, getting my first binder, putting cards in the binder pages, and they were 89 tops for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, so I've always wanted my focus to sort of be on that, recapturing that nostalgia. As far as passing the torch, I mean, none of my kids have really expressed much interest at all in following sports at all, or really,
Pokemon, right?
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, and not even collecting, except for yeah, my youngest, my daughter is into Pokemon. That's right, and so she really likes. She's just like I was at that age too. She likes opening packs and likes ripping them.
Sure.
and getting something shiny out of there. And so she can get one of the hits, the little
Yep.
V card, even if they're only worth $1 or $2. She loves it. She absolutely loves it, and she wants me to record it every time she opens a pack. She wants to
Really?
yeah, she really wants to make a YouTube channel about her opening these packs. And so I've got all these old recordings of her, and some of them are like 20, 30 minutes long. She's opening these Elite Trainer boxes with like 8 packs in them, and it takes a long time. But I'm trying to fumble with sleeves and putting them in soft sleeves. I got all the cases and binders and stuff. So, but yeah, I have no idea if that's gonna if she's gonna maintain interest in that or what. I have no idea. But probably they're not going to follow in the baseball footsteps at this point. It's just me. So yeah, I don't know if I actually have an end game, a set one yet. But I just know whatever direction I do want to head, once I start to complete some of these Maddox projects, I know it's going to have to be intentional. I know it's going to have to be done with some thought and some care. And in the interim, until I decide on something otherwise, I'm probably going to do something similar to you as far as look for upgrades, look for ways to sort of prune and winnow as needed, sort of cut some of the chaff out, maybe save up for some of those bigger pieces, because once I'm at a point where I've got it pretty much the way I want it, I could start to do some more disciplined saving up for some of those heavier hitters that they're not going to come up but once every couple of years, if at all. And when that happens, if I want to really make this, as complete as I can, put in.
So you would much prefer saving up and getting the big, embossed gold refractor.
Yes.
Versus try to go outside of your scope. Try to move to pre-war, for example. You probably wouldn't do that, right?
Probably not. I think there's some draw to pre-war. I think pre-war is a really interesting part of the hobby because, I think there's some concern. There's always people that are concerned about once people who are nostalgic for a certain set of years or range of years, once those people die off, will there be demand for those cards again? And I think pre-war is the resounding answer of, oh yeah, there's demand. People want Ty Cobb. I mean, they just do. People want Honus Wagner. People want.
And there's no one alive today that saw them play. So
Christy Mathewson. Nobody watched Christy Mathewson pitch. No one did. But guess what? We all want their cards, because guess what? The stats don't lie. We see what their WAR numbers were like. We've seen the Ken Burns documentaries. We know what these guys were capable of, and
stats matter for baseball more than any other sport, because you can look at individual stats and it really does matter. And I think within that, the reason I kind of based my top 100 loosely around WAR, and it really featured WAR heavily on all the videos, and it's a big part of my ranking is what is their WAR, and does it need to be adjusted up or adjusted down? Is because I think that's the direction that the game is moving, is to look more and more at those metrics specifically, because that's what the Hall of Fame voters are looking at now. That's what the baseball writers, when they're voting on the MVP every year, they're looking at, all right, who had the highest WAR? And so I think it's going to be continued to be looked at more and more and more. And it's not going to be as much about the tallied numbers as much. It will be. 3,000 hits is always going to matter.
Yeah.
But I think it's moving more toward the advanced metrics and the WAR numbers. So that's why a guy like, I've mentioned him a couple times on this video already, a guy like Eddie Collins will probably never go out of style because he had 120 WAR, as a second baseman. And so there will, I think, always be this undercurrent of collectors that really, they'll continue to increasingly see, okay, who were the 100 WAR players? I think that will be a thing. We don't look at that now. We don't celebrate that now, but we will. We'll celebrate milestones like that, I think, more, that they joined the 100 WAR Club.
Right.
Could you imagine if you had a baseball signed by the 100 WAR Club?
Oh my God.
We don't see it. We won't see it because a lot of those guys have passed away. But I think it'll be celebrated more and more as we go into the future, as WAR is increasingly seen as a benchmark for Hall of Fame induction, as a benchmark for winning the MVP in a given season, for example.
Right.
I think people will collect those players that have 100 WAR, heavier and heavier as people realize what does WAR mean, and how can we standardize it better.
do you think the stance will soften on some of the PED guys, A-Rod, Bonds, Clemens?
I don't know. I think you'll still always have to interpret those numbers. You'll always have to digest the numbers differently with a Bonds. But what I tried to do was just do that in a fair way. You know, say, okay, his 160 WAR isn't really the same as Willie Mays in his 160 WAR. You know.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But even
yeah,
without steroids, he's still a 100 WAR player. I mean, that's
absolutely. Yeah. So you can't negate what he did, especially because most of his career he was clean. You know.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're just past the 50-minute mark, and yeah, that went by. That felt like about 15. So that was that was awesome. Well,
and I have a list of topics too that we could talk about on future videos. I'm sure you do too. I've kind of been keeping a running list of some topics that I thought, oh, this would be a fun thing to just kind of like riff on for a while.
Perfect.
So I don't think we'll run out of topics. I think
I don't think so soon. Hopefully, this is the first of many entries into the Brothers Duo series. But yeah, thanks for coming on, and I look forward to doing this again.
I'll do it any week that we're both available.
Perfect. All righty. Well, again, thank you, and yeah, thank you all for watching this.
Also, welcome to YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Be sure if you haven't, if somehow you're watching this on my channel and not Iconic Al's, I don't know how that could even happen. But yes, please check out Iconic Baseball and Iconic Al. You can watch all of his entire 100 countdown videos on there. That is the primer, the guide to collecting the 100 greatest and most iconic baseball players of all time.
It is one man's opinion of the top greatest and most iconic ball players, and one man's collecting style. That's all.
It may be an opinion, but it's the right one.
I think so. But.
Look, I would find it very hard to disagree with really any of your choices of who you included, and I think that your justifications for their placement on that list is very well founded. And so I think
I can show my work. Someone may disagree with me on a placement of a player or an including of a player or not, but I show my work.
Yes, you do. You use those metrics, the WAR metrics, the numbers to do a really good job justifying every single. I don't think anyone has any much room to stand on for any huge disagreements there, but
there's some subjective too. The iconic status of a player is subjective. How important was that player? How impactful were they off the field? Or, how meaningful were their big moments? These are things that people can differ on. If you grew up in Cleveland, for example, you might remember Jim Thome much higher than if you grew up somewhere else. And so you might be shaking your head like, how the heck could he not include Jim Thome in his top 100?
Sorry, Scott.
Yeah. But to that I say, I'm sorry.
This guy makes it though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can say, okay, there's not a world in which Michael Jordan is not more iconic than Jim Thome. I'm sorry,
It is greatest and most iconic, and
even as a baseball player, yeah.
Yeah. Look, he suited up in White Sox uni, so
yeah,
we got the deck cards. We know.
Yeah. He played Double-A baseball for a time there.
That's right. Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, thank you for joining me on this. We will do it again, and so we'll wrap things up here. But thank you, and
thank you for having me on Brothers Duo.
Absolutely, it's been fun.
Indeed.